Good morning, all of you. Welcome once again to the ISBET University Virtual Seminar Week. Today is the last session, and we're going to discuss about the programming, and it's going to be done by Mr. Danish. Before that, I want you to see a virtual tour of our campus. So I'll be sharing it here. Sound is not coming. The sound is not there from the.
tools learned at the seminars. Cafeteria. They have a cafeteria. Cafeteria. They have where they serve nice food. Cafeteria.
So welcome back. Hope you enjoyed our campus tour. So I already told you today's session is going to be about programming and giving you insights about the intrinsic aspects of programming, how to be a good programmer, and what are the challenges which are there. Okay, and it will be conducted by Mr. Danish Edathadan, and he is assistant lecturer at ICT department in Isbet University, and he is a master's in computer application, and he is also a Microsoft certified trainer. So I would like to request Mr. Danish to take over the seminar. Welcome. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning to all. So welcome to another day of a wonderful seminar. Today, first of all, I'm Danish, Assistant Lecturer, FICT. I hope everyone is on the same page. Everyone can hear me well. I see the numbers are coming up. I hope everyone is audible. And I would like to also request the audience to mute your mic during the presentation, right? And once there is a Q&A sessions once I'm finished with my presentation. So without further delay, let's start. All right, so that's me. So I have 5 years of experience, industrial experience. I worked as a system administrator, as a programmer, as a web developer, as a database developer, before I stepped into the teaching role. So I have also 10 years of experience as an instructor. So you can also find me more about me in the LinkedIn, the link which I've given. So you all know what's the situation, the current situations what we're facing, right? So I cannot meet you physically. We're not doing this physically. We are doing it remotely and online. And you can see that's the technology working for you, right? In this COVID times, where it has taught us, the world, to accept the new technology like never before. So in this new era of digital platform and artificial intelligence, so we are at the doorsteps of realizing the true power of computing. So stepping into this new world, the coders are on the front line of this technological change. So you can see that the effort of the coders is what making this presentation possible, right? This online presentation or the webinar is possible because of the efforts of some coders there. So what you are seeing here, these presentations, this software what you're using to view these presentations, whether it is YouTube or Zoom, right? Or the Microsoft PowerPoint, which I'm using to present here. It's all the softwares which are programmed by some coders, am I right? So it is the efforts of these coders. So I'm here to talk about programming for a better future, right? To begin with, I would like to just give some insights. What is coding? So coding is an in-demand skill used in almost every industry, you know that. Every industry, whether it is a medical, educational, or industry, right? Governments, research, any industry out there, right? You would see that coding is an integral part of it. So it is a demand skill used in every industry, right? So whether you envision your career as a programmer, a game developer, or data scientist, it all starts with the code. So if you learn how to code, you'll open the door to wide choice of careers, right? So in today's presentation, that's the agenda we have. Why choose coding? Programming jobs to consider. Typical coding career path. What do coders do? Levels of programming. 10 popular programming languages out there. And I'm going to also show you some sample codes of different programming languages just to see how these programming languages, how are you going to work with these programming languages? And why there are so many programming languages out there, the reason behind it, right? And how to choose the career path as a developer, right? So let's continue. So why choose coding? So coding develops problems called solving skills. Now that's the first, I would say the skill set what you're going to gain from coding. Now you don't need to be like from a science background to do a coding, right? You can be from any background, okay? I would say a knowledge of mathematics, the basic knowledge or foundational knowledge of mathematics can just get you to pursue a career in coding or programming. Now as a software engineer all these years, when I began my programming or coding skills from my school time, let's say primary 5, where I started coding, the very first basic programming I did, I would say that it has allowed to me to enhance my skill set on problem solving. So that's one skill set I would say that which is going to gain you, which is a problem solving skills. So coding is all about there is a problem and you're going to find a solution in solving that problem. So there are n number of solutions and you will get the best solution in solving that problem. And despite being so technical, programming helps in thinking creatively. And the coding industry, right, is in need of powerful computing brains. And you know that most of you might say, I don't say everyone, like some of you must be saying that maths is boring, might find that, okay, maths is not for me, like, oh, maths it's a bit difficult, right? Have complex things or formulas out there. I would say that programming is a way of doing mathematics, but it's in a fun way. So it's a fun activity you're doing actually. So it's very fun. It's a fun thing to learn coding. And there is always something new to learn. And you would see that, you see the technology is what we are using today, right? With artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, you name it. All this, right? You see that the advancements happening over these years, and a lot of advancement have happened over the last few years. So there is always something new to learn. That's what makes interesting, programming. There's always something to learn. So I would say that when you go for a business course, I would say that you learn, of course, different things, but I won't say that there is no much advancements as the way it is happening in ICT or IT, right? And coding is used across all industries, as I told you. It's one of the highly paid job. And as I'm doing now, talking to you remotely, you work remotely. So mostly we can work remotely at these times, at these pandemic situations. And this job career, right, is the best for working remotely. And I must say that anyone can code. Anyone can code out there. So things have gone so simplified today. The programming languages also evolved from the machine languages, what I'm going to discuss with you, to the high-level languages, enabling us to write code very easily. So anyone can code out there. So these languages, like for example, like Python has made the life easier for non-technical guys even to code. So what are the programming jobs to consider? Let's see that. All right, so we have computer program in general. I can say that not limited to desktop developer, right? So he is the one who is going to ensure the code is bug-free, meets the client's expectations. Programmers works in large teams. Of course, when you say programmers or developers, when they work in a company, right, they work as a team. So it's a team effort. A resultant software is the result of a team effort. A computer software, you see that, is a result of a team effort. So you need to be a team player. So it's not like that the whole burden is on your shoulders as an individual, but it is a team you're going to share. You're going to solve the problems individually and collectively by having solutions. You build up all these solutions, put together, you get what? A solution which solves the problem. And that's what a computer programmer does. You see, I say with computer programming in general. Now we have a web developer. So what he's going to do? A web developer is one, he has a lot of things he can do. So it's a large domain. We have the front end, we have the back end, we call it, in the web development platform. So we have the front end, which is what you're seeing now. You're seeing the screen, right? You're seeing your screen. You're seeing me. You're seeing this presentation, right? And that's your front end. That's the UI, user interface, what you're seeing. You use your mouse, you click on something on the screen, right? Maybe you mute. Now that's the interaction you're doing. So that's just the interface you're seeing on the screen. So that's your front end. So one who develops the front end and one who develops the back end. So we have the back end developers who's going to code the functionality of the software. So when you click a button, what happens, right? So when I click on the mute, what happens? The sound gets muted, right? So that's a piece of code which is actually muting the sound, right? So means that's a piece of code which is written behind. So behind the front end, we talk about the back end, which is running on a server, right? Remotely. So you access Facebook, right? WhatsApp, YouTube, right? You're watching these videos, you're watching pictures from Facebook, and it's all loaded from remotely from a server, right? So it means you try to log in with the username password in a Facebook, right? You press the login button. And that's when a piece of code is running behind, which is going to pull the data from a database, which is also remotely on the server side, which is going to throw in the pictures and videos on your screen. So it's not like that when you just click on the Facebook, you type in Facebook, everything is loaded on your, everything is lying on your machine. No, it has to come from a remote machine. You understood? So it means someone has coded on that remote machine, right? What is to be displayed on your screen and what is to be available on your screen. So that's the backend developing. So, and we also have a full stack development or web developer, which comprise of both front and backend. So it means you can focus on the front end, the backend, and you can also become a full stack developer, right? And as a web developer, you're expected to know basic languages like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And these three are the major players for the web, the World Wide Web. HTML in itself is a markup language. I won't say it's a programming language. We call it a markup language, which makes up the web page, what you're seeing, right? The CSS, cascading style sheet, JavaScript is a scripting languages we use also for the web. And I would be throwing more insights into some of these languages later, right? And you can see, so web developer needs some language skill sets like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And for backend developing, you need to have knowledge with Python. That's an example of it. C#, Java, and SQL for database, right? So next we go and see another job role as a mobile app developer. So a mobile app developer is responsible for creating apps that runs on your phones. You all know how much of phone usage we are using in a day, am I right? You can see the use of smartphones have increased exponentially, right? Exponentially over these years. The last few years, you've seen that, like now, today, like with these situations, what's going on, you said everyone is part of this digital world, right? Everyone is logged in. And mostly, everyone is using a smartphone. All those apps which you're using on your smartphones, your Facebook or WhatsApp, your phone book, or any apps which is running on your phone, right, is developed using a programming language. So app developers need to provide this user experience, which means you write and has to run across multiple devices. So means it has to cater to the small screens and large screens as well, right? And as a mobile app developer, you are required to have some skill set. So it means we have different platforms out there, different devices running on different platforms. Say, for example, if you're using an iPhone, right, you must be having a knowledge of Objective-C and Swift. These are the languages which you need to be knowing. And if you're using an Android phone, you want to build apps on an Android phone, you need to have a knowledge of Java, right? So that's also one career opportunity, right? You can go with. Well, next, we have a database developer. As I told you, database, which means where things are stored, right? Where all your informations are stored. A database is a place, it's like a container where all our information is stored. We can fetch information from this place, right? We can store information into this place. We can make meaningful information, create reports, powerful reports from this database. Now, as a database developer, you need to design databases, which means you need to meet the client's expectations. You need to develop codes in SQL, the structured query language, the language which the database understands, which is a common or universal language, which then using this language, you write queries extracting informations or reports. Means the data is out there, and using a query, you're going to combine this data into a meaningful information and produce it on the screen. So it is using these databases as the base. We could choose many other careers. Like you can become a business intelligence expert, a data science or data scientist, right? So what skill set you require, especially as a database developer, is you need to have a knowledge of SQL, the structured query language, right? Next, we have data scientists. And you might have been hearing this a lot, data scientist. This is one of the, I would say, a hot job roles out there, right? It's one of the highly paid job too. And it's a quite demanding job there. So I say it's one of the trending fields. And what is the responsibility of a data scientist? Is look for patterns and find useful conclusions. So you need to draw patterns from the data or from the bulk data, for the big data out there, and produce meaningful information out there. He has to draw conclusions. And it is this information what the top level management uses to make decision. So he fuels, right, the top level management in giving out useful information. So he draw conclusions. So how's the market trends happening, right? So whether I should launch a product now, right? And so as a data scientist, I can draw conclusions from the data what I have collected, and I know what I have to do. So decisions can be made easily as with the help of a data scientist. Of course, the languages you must be knowing is Python and R, for example. So it's not limited to this, but we have quite a lot, but I'm just discussing about some of the popular languages out there. So Python is one of the popular languages out there, which we can use it for data science. And R is also a programming language. As a network system administrator, your job role is to maintain your network environment, prevent disasters, backing up data, provide support, provide network security, avoid viruses, right? So you may need to write codes and you need to look for bugs, right? For both the network and the hardware components. So what are the languages you must be knowing? Is Perl, Python, Bash, or scripting. So Bash is the scripting language we use for Unix-based systems, and currently we are using it also for Linux, right? Bash, or the shell scripting. You must be aware of the DOS commands, or maybe the command prompt in Windows. If you have seen the command prompt, where maybe you have tried using some commands, right? Yes, so that's a command prompt. We also call it the shell in Linux systems. So having a scripting knowledge can help you to automate the task in the network, right? So means that's one thing what the network administrator is also doing. So having knowledge of these languages, also we have Golang, right, is an added advantage. So next is cyber security professional. So he's to protect sensitive data and investigate computer-based crimes and fraud, maintain the security of the networks, prevent attacks by fixing the potential issues. So means understanding some programming languages out there, right? Can examine the software, allows you to even re-engineer softwares, looking for security bugs or vulnerabilities or malicious codes which can threaten your network, your internal network. Languages the cybersecurity professional can go with is Python, still Golang, JavaScript, C, C++, and SQL for database, right? So next is game developer. And of course, it's a competitive field, and those who like to play games, we play games a lot, right? Can kill our time, right? So maybe on your smartphones or on your desktops, right? Or if you have a game station, right? Which you can use it on your TV, right? So all this, having games, right? To build these games need some programming languages. So we have C, C++, Java, C#. C# is which runs on the .NET platform from Microsoft, which I'm going to explain to you that later, right? So we have game developer. And I don't know if you must be hearing DevOps here and there, right? When you browse through internet or on the job advertisements, you must be hearing these days, you hearing this name, DevOps coming in. DevOps engineer, DevOps developer, right? So he's the one, I would say that he's just going to make life easier. And he's going to bridge the gap between a developer and the operations. So when I say the operations, so you know the developer. So when I say the IT operations, so they're the ones which is managing the changes, controlling the versions of your software. They're the one deploying your softwares. They're the one getting feedback from the clients. So these are the operations. And the developer's job is to just develop the code. And of course, this code goes through different process, means the code goes for testing, then it goes for review, right? Comes back to the developer, and the developer needs to fix those errors, what he might have caused, right? Now, a DevOps is a smart way of developing softwares. So here you need to learn about software. You need to have a good knowledge of the software development lifecycle, right? From the planning stage to the development, to the testing, to the deployment and implementation, right? And the user's acceptance. So means there are different life cycles in a software development. As a DevOps engineer, DevOps, what it does is it makes software delivery faster and continuous without much delay. And what we have followed the software development lifecycle in the past, right? So I would say things have evolved, and this is one of the latest, I would say, a software development, a lifecycle strategy, right? Which allows you to deliver or solve projects or do projects at a faster rate, right? So this is also one career opportunity you have, right, as a DevOps engineer. So let's now discuss the typical coding career path. So what happens once you step into development? So I've given you an organizational chart here. And you can see here at the bottom, you have junior developer. So once you get into a career as a developer or a programmer, the first or the entry level you're going in is as a junior developer. And still it's a highly paid job when you compare to any other entry job out there as a junior developer. So you have set of skill sets. You're required to have some skill sets. You need to have a bachelor's degree. If so, that's an added advantage. You need to write codes, debug, right? It is minimum to that. And further you go up the chart, right? There you have senior developer. then you have the lead developer or the architect, you have the middle level managers, and then you have the senior leadership. We have the vice president, the CEO, right, the chief executive officer, and so on. And I've also denoted some of these average salary, what these different people take it, right, annually. So this is just an average, but I'm sure we can get more, right? And also depends upon the different technologies you go in. So you might be a junior developer, and you just you use a particular language, and you can just switch to a different language which is new in the market, or which is trending in the market, and you could just earn more. So as a junior developer, right, you're required to write codes, do bug-free softwares, which means clients' expectations. You'll spend a significant amount of time developing your coding skills, of course. So as a fresher, you get into the industry, right? Of course, you need to have some analytical skills, and the problem-solving skills. As I told you, the job of a programmer has become easier these days, right? So one, as an employer, one looks at your problem-solving skills more than your coding skills, right? Or the knowledge of the code or the programming language. You need to have the problem-solving skills. So how are you going to integrate the solutions and to get the larger solutions to the problem? And then we have, once you step into junior developer, you climb the ladder and you become a senior developer. Of course, you must be then now you are having an extensive or deep understanding all the stages of the software development lifecycle. And you need to keep up with the deadlines, which is thrown by your technical lead and then the managers or the development managers. Must be having strong analytical skills, right? And you must have, and you have an opportunity to learn the software development lifecycle. We also have the lead architect, who is the highest rank on the technical career. So it means here is where you still do programming, you still do coding, even with the lead architect. But mostly you're designing the system. Of course, then also coding, but you're majorly doing what? You're as an architect, right? You are designing the system, which then is given to the senior developers then to the junior developers. And he's the one also managing the team of the senior and junior developers. So means having the years of experience and wisdom is to create the structure for a successful software project. So there is a project out there and he's the one designing, right? He's the one setting the deadlines and he's the one taking care of the job. And he's reporting to a senior, right? To a middle level manager. Being a middle level manager, right? Can be a product manager, development manager, or a project manager. Must be having a strong leadership skills. And you have to manage the lead architect, the senior developers, and the junior developers, right? So he's the one then reporting to the senior leader, who is then heading a team of managers. A senior leader, of course, having strong leadership skills. So he's the one taking care of the whole team, the entire teams, right? And he's the one to motivate and inspire these teams towards achieving the company goals and make sure that everyone at the company is rowing in the same direction. So what do coders do? All right, what do coders do? Write and develop programs, right? So what do you mean by program? When I say program, so program is an instruction. Program is what? An instruction written in a language that is understood by the computer. So a program contains instructions. So when I click on the button to move to my next slide, I click on a button. Now that's an instruction I'm giving to the computer, which means then it is moving the presentation, the slide is moving to the next slide by doing so, right? Okay, so I request the participants to mute your mic. Okay. And he's the one to write and test codes to debug the existing software. He's the one developing software patches or fix bugs, solve problems with collaborating the teams and producing solutions. So as I told you, it's a team effort. So he's the one, you need to work as a team. You need to collaborate with your team, and everyone have solutions to a problem, and you need to integrate all your solutions collectively and to come up with the larger solutions which solves the actual problem. Is the one to perform regular audits, raise any concerns with the manager and report issues, regularly writes and update technical documents, right? So means these are some of the job roles what a coder is supposed to do, right? So next, just see the levels of programming. So I'm just showing you this to know that we moved from the low level to the high level in the programming hierarchy. And as a job of a programmer, my job becomes easier, right? These days or today, having a high level programming language out there means I can just use plain English actually to write programming codes, which was not possible before. Now we see that in the levels of programming, as you can see on the screen. So we have hardware, right? Which means your CPU, right? Your hardware. On top of that, we have the machine language. Now the machine language sits close to the hardware, right? So machine's language is something which your hardware can understand easily. So it is the language of the machine's language, am I right? And then comes the assembly language, an intermediate language, which sits between the machine and the high level. So I'll put the user on the top, right? I'll put the user on the top on the high level. So it means the assembly language, the user means the coder or the programmer here. So assembly is between the user and the machine language. It means it is close to the machine and it's close to the user. But it's not gonna use like a familiar language, what we know like English to program, right? But though certain commands are used, right? But I would say it is more technical still, right? And you need to have a good technical knowledge and of this language, especially, right, to write programs in it. So means when you write a program in an assembly language, it can be easily translated into the machine's language. So it means writing a code in assembly language can be easily processed by the processor or by the machine. Can be easily translated. And climbing up the ladder, we have the high-level language. So high-level languages out there. So today, when we say all these programming language, what we're using here are high-level languages where we have C or C++, PHP, Java, Rust, Python, and so on. All these are high-level languages out there. Now, I won't say C is a high-level, but we also call it as a middle-level language. And as a high-level language, it means I've gone afar from, you see that I've climbed the ladders from the machine assembly, I've reached the high level. Now, being a high level language, it is easy for the user to write instructions using high level languages, which then the computer understands. So means, but it's not easy for the machine. So you see that the high level languages needs to be translated into the machine's language. So means the high level languages is first converted or translated into assembly language, then translated into machine's language, what the machine then understands and it executes. Understood? So a high level language is better for the user, but not so for the machine. It is this high level languages which makes us today as a programmer, helps us to write instructions easily in our own languages with limited efforts. And why I call anyone can code, right? For this reason. Okay. And translating high level to the machine's language, we have softwares. We call the system softwares. We have compilers, interpreters doing the job for you. All right. So what are the 10 popular programming languages out there? Now, this is, when I say this is 10 popular languages, okay? I won't say these are the programming languages out there. So this is just this chart, as you can see, this table is just based upon the popularity, based upon the searches, what the users have made in the search engines, and various other factors comes in. So we have we call it the TOBE index, right? The TOBE is a software quality testing company, right? So they are into this, right? Producing this chart where they look at the different programming languages and they give out periodically. They just give out the popular programming languages out there. So you can just visit this site and you can see yourself what changes have gone with the programming languages of this year. And you can see I highlighted the Python on the change part. Python is increasing popularity, though C is still the #1 programming languages with the popularity and programming. And you see that why C, I will be explaining that later. All right. You see C, Python, then it comes Java, C++, C#, Visual Basic, JavaScript, assembly language, PHP, SQL. So still you see the assembly language is playing there. Still it's in the top 10. Started from 1960s and 70s where we started using it and still it is there. So still people are using it. So coming to this chart here, Python. Now, Python is something which allows even the non-technical guy to learn programming faster. It has style sets which is different from the traditional programming, like what we do in C or C++. Though I would say C is the mother of all languages. C inspired all the other languages out there, what you're seeing today. So any language you take, you'll see that there is a presence of C. So even Python is influenced from C. So at ISBAT University, you see we have the bachelor's in computer science and bachelor's in applied information technology. We have cybersecurity, artificial intelligence. You would see that in all these courses, especially with computer science and AIT, we still start the basics with C programming. The reason behind it is C's syntax. When I say syntax, so it's like I speak English now, right? So it means when I use this language, English, to communicate to you, we have letters from A to Z. It means I have to use the right grammar, right? I need to properly frame the sentence. Am I right? I cannot just simply use the characters just like that to make some information, but I have to follow some dictionary. Am I right? Similarly, C have syntaxes, right? Like the language have grammars, right? C have syntax. In its library, we call it. So library is a collections of these commands or keywords, right? So C have all these set of syntax out there, right? And C syntax is what majorly used by other programming languages. So C style, right? How C is solving the problems is you will see C's presence in every other programming language. That is the reason why we still advise you to start programming with C, right? So having a knowledge of C, it means it's a ticket for you to learn any other programming languages out there very easily. So having learned C programming means you can learn any other programming languages. It can be a scripting language, or it can be a programming language which can be used to develop web applications, desktop applications, and so on, right? And we also have Python, which is increasing popularity. Reasons why, you know it, Python, which is used in machine learning today, artificial intelligence, it's used in websites, anywhere, everywhere. So it's a general purpose language. And it has a simple style set, syntax, or usage where a programmer can easily code. So Python is also something which you can begin with, right? So I spoke about C programming, am I right? It's the base or mother of all programming languages. It's a general purpose. When I say general purpose, it means I can use it to develop. So this is I would say, it's best suited for system programming. Means I can use this C programming to develop operating systems. I can use it to develop compilers, interpreters. I can use C for web development. I can use C for user interface. I can use C for mobile applications. A good example is iOS is using Objective-C. A variant of C is used to develop applications for iOS, Apple phones I'm talking about, right? You take Windows. So most of the code is written in C and C++. C++ is just an extension of C, a language, C++ we have also. And one of the powerful operating systems which you had, Unix operating system, was written totally in C. Unix paved the way for Linux, the operating system, which is used almost every servers out there, right? Which is a Linux, which was also, you see that, have the presence of C language out there. So everywhere you see there is a presence of C. Now it is C influenced a language called Java, an object-oriented language. And Java is the one which you are using for Android phones, am I right? We use the language Java to write apps on Android phones. So it's a general purpose, means I can use it to program an AC. I can use it for smartphones, web development. So that's why we call it a general purpose. And it's a procedural or function oriented. Okay, so we'll get to know that details in detail as you start learning this, right? Because we don't have much time in explaining those concepts here, right? And so it's a structured way of programming. So means like we follow some structure. And I would say that for personally, for me, I like programming in C for that matter. So it is a strongly typed or static type language. You have to follow some syntax or the grammar, as I said. So we have to follow the syntax in the library if you need to use this language, right? So that's C for you. Then we have C++. Next slide. So C++, which is an extension of C, C++. It's what we call an increment, okay? And plus is just an operator also in our programming language. So we say C++ means it's an increment to C. Now C is a procedure-oriented or structure-oriented programming, and C++ is an object-oriented programming. So that's the programming strategy we used in the modern era, object-oriented programming style. So C++ is a pioneer. He's the one which brought, I would say, these concepts of object-oriented programming in place, which was influenced or inspired programming languages, Java, Python, or any other object-oriented programming language out there, right? And you will see that the Windows, what I'm using, right? The Windows, the visual appearance is possible because it is programmed using C++. C# is a language which runs on .NET framework, a framework which contains a rich set of libraries or APIs, which is produced by Microsoft. Okay, and C# is a language which runs on that platform, and it gained popularity, right, with the advancement of new functionalities in the .NET framework over the years. So this is the first language introduced by Microsoft on its own platform, right? And it's also a general purpose language, and it's an open source language also. So when I say the license, I've also specified the licenses on my slides. So when I say these licenses, these are the licenses, which means they can be commercial or open source. When I say open source, which can be then used by you freely, can be modified and can then be distributed, right? So when I say commercial, means you need to pay for it, right? You need to, when you cannot use it freely as like an open source. We have Java. So Java is also a high-level language, as I told you. I would say C++ inspired, C and C++ inspired Java. So having a knowledge of C++ can easily learn Java. And also as a beginner, you can also get into this language as a beginner too, right? And you would see that it is one of the popular languages out there, used for mobiles, as I said, for Android phones, right? The desktop applications, web servers. So you see the presence of Java everywhere. Even the security what is provided on a browser, right? The browsers what we're using today is programmed using Java. JavaScript. So JavaScript is there from the very beginning, when the World Wide Web was introduced. Initially, the World Wide Web was more of a static in nature. What brought dynamicity into the web page is JavaScript. So JavaScript can be found that it can run almost in any machines out there because of its Java runtime environment, or GRE, or the virtual machines we call it, which make it possible where you can write a program using Java and it can run on any machines out there, on any different platforms. That's what made Java so popular, used in very many fields, right? We'll see the presence everywhere. It is owned by Oracle corporations today, right? So, and it has it is actually a dual licensed. Talking about, okay, JavaScript. So I'm just moving to Java, right? So JavaScript is one of the most used scripting languages out there for the web, right? So don't confuse Java with JavaScript, right? JavaScript is a scripting language which can be easily embedded on a web page. So that's what makes the web so dynamic with the help of JavaScript. So we have different frameworks from JavaScript. We have jQuery, we have Bootstrap, and quite a lot of frameworks out there, web frameworks out there, which makes web development much easier. It is because of JavaScript, right? So you will see that JavaScript engine is available almost every browser today. So that's what makes your web page more interactive, and it is because it is programmed using JavaScript. PHP is also one of the, next slide. PHP is one of the most popular server-side scripting languages out there, right? It has a C-like syntax. It's also a general purpose scripting language, right? Which is used for web development. And you see that Python is also taking over, right? In the same era, right? Python is also getting popular, but still PHP owns most of the shares in the market, right? When it comes to the server side, right? Or on the web server side. Okay, so you see that most of the PHP websites, right? PHP program websites are running on the web. ASP.NET runs on the .NET platform, as I told, from Microsoft. So it is, I would say, it's a developer platforms or an extension to the .NET platform, which is basically for web development. And so you want to write server-side scripting just like PHP. You wanna do it using Microsoft platforms. You can go for ASP.NET. So it's a free cross-platform and open source. So Microsoft have made it this platform open source, so which gives us an advantage also, right? So it has, I would say that after PHP, we have PHP or Python, we have ASP.NET in the market. R is a free and open source programming language. You might have heard this language a lot, used in machine learning, data science, right? So basically, for statistical analysis, we want to visualize data, draw patterns from the data and make visualization. So I use R programming. So it's licensed under a public license, which means it is free and you can modify it and you can redistribute it. And it is written primarily using the language C. Next. So Python, as I explained to you, right? Also free and open source. It's a general purpose language, object-oriented language. Can be used for websites, software, automations, when I say, right? So you can use it for machine learning, data science, right? Mostly you see that it is also there. And I also personally use for websites. I can use to develop desktop applications, right? So, and it's also one of the beginner-friendly language you can try. Next. Next, we have Rust, a programming. So I've bought this language here, and you see that over these years, Rust is gaining popularity. Now, even it has gone so popular, even Android, right? Developers. So Android, they are trying to incorporate Rust into their platform, right? So it means the Google announced the support for Rust within the Android project as an alternative to C and C++. And also Google is planning to include Rust in their kernel, the Linux kernel. So kernel is the heart of an operating system. So Android's kernel is made up of Linux, right? So means even they are planning to rewrite using Rust. So that's the popularity we have with this language, which is getting so popular these days. And it is said that this is going to be the next future programming language you can try, right? So once you step into Python, you can also try also with Rust, which is for the future, right? So it also which is going to use C style. So means having a knowledge of C helps us to work with Rust better, right? So it has the syntax similar to C, C++. As you can see here, the next, the chart, as you can see how the languages over the years have moved up and down, right? Climbing up the chart and moving down the chart, as you can see on the green, right? We have Java, right? And we also have C still on the #1 position. It has its bad times during 16 and 18, and it has moved up over these years still. So C is still in the market and it is going strong, right? And you can see Python is gaining its popularity. So quickly, I'm going to just show you some code snippets, which is written using different programming languages, the languages what I've discussed. This code snippet, when I say a piece of code, is used to just display a message on a screen, say hello world. And when I write a program for the first time, the first thing I want to do is to display a message on the screen. And as a coder, we normally do with what? Hello world. And that's what I'm going to show you here. Next. This is a machine code. So you want to display a message, hello world, and you want to write using machine code. This is what you have to do. Quite hard, right? You might feel like, oh, programming is not for me. This was a long time back, right? I'm talking about before 60s, when you do programming using machines language. So you don't need to do that anymore. But when you write a programming language in high level, which needs to be converted to the machines language of this language, which can be easily interpreted by the machine. Next. This is a script language, Bash or Unix shell, we call it, which is also the same goes with the Linux when you write scripts. So as I told you, where the administrators, network administrators, you have to use this a lot. You can see that I want to display a message here. I just say echo hello world in quotes. Quotes means it's a string of characters, so I have to put in quotes. So you can see echo is a command I use to display a message on the screen. The name is the command prompt. Yeah, keyboard. All right, so if you're using a Windows, let me just show you quickly. If I go to the command prompt, share. Oh yeah. So you have the command prompt here. You can I just typed in the command CMD. So I want to see the date today. I just can write a command. Sorry. Date, right? Gives me the date. I want to display a message, hello world. Yes. It displays me the message, hello world, echo, right? So that's a command which throw as an instruction to the computer and just responding to me. I've just used a pretty old way of doing things, right? Which we use the DOS commands here. This is similar to your shell commands, which we use in Unix or Linux, okay? Point. So coming back to so that's a shell scripting. Then we have assembly language we used. As I told you in the programming hierarchy, right? We had the assembly language, which was sitting in the middle, the intermediate language, which is close to the machine, also to the user, but not so user-friendly too. So an assembly language, you can see to display a message, this is what we are supposed to do. Still not easy, right? It's difficult to understand. So it's not easy for as a beginner, right, to gain experience with this language. But we use this in this past. So you must be happy that you're not born like 10, 20 years before, right? This was the option we had, to program. Now we also had COBOL. Me personally, when I was learning my bachelor's in computer science, I started using COBOL. Is one language, means, right? If you want to display a message, you have to write a lot. It's like writing an essay. This one language we used. Basic is also a language I began with during my primary. We use the line numbers 10, 20 to write commands. Like print is a command I use to display something on the screen. Then we have C. C is, you can see that we use C we use a function, we call it printf is a function. print with F format, right? So print F and display the message hello world. This is using C. This is how C looks. This next is C#. So we display the same, but using the C# in the .NET platform. And this is Java for you. I use classes and objects here. But this is part of the object-oriented programming. So Java is all about object-oriented programming. So those who have a knowledge of object-oriented programming will be understanding this. So you don't need to, be like surprised by looking at this code and see that, oh, it's gonna be like difficult or something. No, it's not. Actually, it's very easy. So there are some syntax you're just following, that's it, right? And you can see some basic English terms used compared to the other machine languages and assembly languages. And we have JavaScript for you, right? To write display message, I just use console.log, the function. Objective-C, use puts function. R, using a cat and displaying the message. Python is using print. Rust, similar to, you can see like C, is using a function, and it's like, we call it the println hello world, right? Or you can also use print, that is with Rust. So Rust is developed by Mozilla Firefox. So those who are using Firefox, you must be knowing it, right? The Firefox. So they developed it. All right. So why are there so many programming languages out there? Next. So different kinds of developer jobs requires different languages. So it means a game developer, if you want to be a game developer, then you have to use C++ or C#, a web developer HTML, CSS, a mobile app developer Java, Kotlin, or iOS for Swift, Objective-C. Software developers use C++, C#, Java, Python, and so data scientists use Python, R, and so on. So it means different kinds of developers means requires different languages. So means we need to have different languages solving different problems out there, right? And some of these languages have better performance than the other. Consumes less memory, they can run faster. They're much efficient. So means they need very less resources, computing resources. So means Python is good, but I would say Rust, the new language, is considered the best performing language out there. So developers have different needs and goals for their projects. So that's what I said. Some programming languages which is super fast in performance, like Rust, we need it. Some needs to develop things much in a faster rate in few days. We don't have much time. So say for example, I do that in JavaScript. Programming language for a specific task like Python for data science, right? So these are different needs and goals you have. So how do you choose the programming languages? So first you need to have your end goals, as I discussed in the previous slide. Which kind of programming job you want to work in? You want to be a web developer or game developer, right? The development speed and execution speed. What do you want to build, right? And what do job postings require? So it means in Uganda, right? So what's the requirement? What language is more required? So you can just try to put in your, effort into that languages which can gain job easily. Next. So how do I choose my career path as a developer? So you must be analytical, detail-oriented, and you must be focusing for a long time, able to focus for a long time. Means you should be having patience. So means there is a trial and error. You have solutions. When there is a problem given to you, you come up with, you may have n number of solutions. So you may need to choose the best solution, the optimal solutions for that problem. Now, I would say that programming is something which is very close to nature. It means like you are giving birth to a baby. You write a program, a piece of code is like giving birth to a baby. You see it as like a baby coming out of your creativity, working in front of you, right? As an app, as a mobile app, and imagine thousands or millions of users using your idea. As I said, the programming is close to nature. Most of the solutions what we have today, an example of driverless car, and Netflix, if you have gone through, right, how Netflix gives suggestions with the movies, am I right? How Facebook throws different pictures and videos based upon your activities and taste. Not every Facebook user gets to see the same home screen, am I right? So all this are happening because of the machine learning algorithms, the data science out there, right? Now, what fuels these technologies? Means these are ideas, came from ideas, simple ideas. And these ideas are inspired. These ideas are inspired from the nature. So most of the solutions have come up from the nature. So nature have already coded. We are looking at the nature and we are just coding ourselves, right? We're coming up with solutions from the nature. So you would feel that you're close with nature as you're programming. You develop problem-solving skills, right? So means you should have problem-solving skills to choose your path as a developer. And this comes not in a day. This comes by time. You try to solve different problems. I'm telling you, as you get your career into a programmer, you learn programming skills. I'm telling you, as you try to solve problems, of course, you get the excitement and awe every time you try to solve a solution, solve a problem. And this means you're trying to solve many problems. It means it is slowly enhancing your problem solving skills by the time you're becoming a problem solver. And that's the good quality what you're going to get. So, and this is the quality what you need to choose a career as a developer. And you must have some skill set in some of the basic languages out there, like Java, C or C++, SQL, HTML, CSS, and so on. And driving passion for excelling and reaching the top of your career later. Of course, that passion has to be there. So don't take programming just because that's something trending in the market, but you should have that passion. And don't worry that you don't need to put in a lot of mathematics here. As I told you, it's a fun way of doing programming, right? Fun way of doing mathematics, which is programming. You don't need to actually do all those complex things what you did in mathematics, but this is much more logical way of doing things, right? So it's going to increase your logical reasoning too. So a good educational background is required, right? I would say having a bachelor's degree in the IT, right, or in the related fields of IT would be an added advantage, of course. And you can also be a non-IT, coming from a non-IT background. Still, you can enhance your skills. You can do DORA certifications, the vendor-specific certifications out there. And then you need to sharpen your soft skills to help you become competitive and stand as the best. Also, the soft skills matters. How you communicate with your team, how you communicate with people, how you share your ideas. That's also very important in choosing the career path as a developer. You got it? Right? So that covers all my points, what I want to discuss today. So I took some time. I'm very sorry for that. We had some delay in between. And I want to just make sure that you get everything what you need to know in relation to programming, right? And if you decide to choose programming as a career path, so you can just take some of the points that I've shared. You can get to reach me more, to get to know more. And always, we at East Pratt University, we are here to help you. I want to get consulted, right? Have more insights into what I've discussed. You can reach us, right? So now I'm going to open the session for questions. So now you can just turn on your mic and you can just throw your questions.
No?
What? Yes, please.
Hello, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation.
Welcome.
Yeah, my name is Ivan. I'm a student of cybersecurity.
You're a student of cybersecurity. So you're doing it. You're studying at which university?
But I'm just going to join.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Yeah, so which programming language would you advise me to begin with for the case of cybersecurity?
Okay. Yeah, in regard to cybersecurity, you can begin with Python.
Python, no?
I suggest you go with Python, yeah. And
Okay.
you will see that Python, you will be having the language Python to be learned also during this your course, right? So
All right.
you'll be beginning with the data structures, so where you'll also be putting your hands into C programming out there. So anyway, by time you will be learning Python. So I would suggest you to go for Python.
Python,
That's
no?
the best choice. Yeah.
Yeah, but then remember, Python has some, okay, there are like some if statements. You cannot learn those if statements if you don't know JavaScript. Don't you recommend someone first learn JavaScript before you learn Python?
Okay, so that is what I said. Because you'll be starting with the presence of C when you begin with before you getting into Python. So means like those statements like ifs will be learned by then, right? So that makes it easier to work with Python. Yeah.
Okay. And then another question: is it also necessary to learn the Linux commands in cybersecurity?
Of course. Yeah, that is
Very
that
important.
is yeah, the scripting language you need to be learning, right? See like Perl, okay, that can be advanced. You can go with Bash or shell scripting for Linux, yeah. And then yeah, so that's one thing. Even PHP, JavaScript, all these have similarities in between. So if you have some knowledge of JavaScript, also helps you working with Bash commands much easily. But you can start with it also.
So I can learn Bash at the same time with Python.
Yeah. No problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah.
Welcome. Okay, who is next? Is there any questions? Who is this? I see someone has turned on the mic. So do I have any other questions, guys? So I would like to hear from you. If you have questions, I'm here to give more insights.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Programming and coding, are they the same?
Of course, they are the same. Both are the same.
Oh, they're the same, eh?
Yeah, just
there's no difference.
No difference.
Coding, are they the same?
They are the very same. Eh? You can use these words interchangeably. There is no problem.
Oh.
Okay. Right. So guys, then I think, okay, Ivan raised your hand. Yeah, please, Ivan.
One more question. Are there any resources you can help us with where we can be practicing? Because I had that programming, you need to practice a lot of practice. Have you been doing any resources? Yeah.
Okay, you are looking for resources to try to learn this programming language. That's what you're asking.
To practice. Yeah, to practice. Yeah.
Right. So you see that learning has become so easier these days, and so are you planning to go for higher studies?
Yes, in the future. Yeah.
All right. So currently, yeah, you can even you see that at ISBET we have this channel, Wisdom channel. I don't know if you have subscribed to it. If not, you can subscribe.
It's called what?
Wisdom. Yeah.
Right.
So we are coming up with a sequence, a series of videos on different topics.
Okay.
So which means you can subscribe to that, and you can just wait for that. That's one thing which you can use, right, for learning. And we can also try in different resources for a different purpose. You can also try to email me, and I can just share it also some of the resources. So I can put my email ID on the chat, which can be shared to all of you.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So the YouTube channel, I've shared it also. My email ID, Danish.
Yeah, it's not showing us for now. We're still on the command prompt. Yeah, it's not showing. We're not seeing it.
Okay, so that I'm going to share my email ID. Then you can write to me, and I can just share some resources which you can learn for a particular language of your choice.
Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome. Danish.fict. That is ISBET University. Okay, guys. So I think that's it for now, and I hope this session have gave you some knowledge, right? Why to choose programming as a career, and I hope that I'll be seeing you, right? Maybe all of you soon, right? Means